Welcome back to our channel, ladies and gentlemen. Kindly subscribe to our channel if you're watching us for the first time, or if you're our regular viewers but you have not yet subscribed. To our supporters and all the subscribers, thank you very much. May God bless you. The Azimio fraternity, led by Raila Odinga, has finally answered the concerned Kenyans who are crying foul about the punitive taxes, about the unpopular taxes, about the unpopular Finance Bill 2023. Ever since this bill was forcefully introduced and passed by the Kenya Kwanza lawmakers, there has been a lot of outcry from all Kenyans because Kenyans had spoken and said that they were not ready for these taxes. They said that we have always been law-abiding and we have all been paying taxes since time immemorial, since times of independence. And most of them, especially those from the Ruto strongholds, from Nyeri, Nandi and all those, were calling upon Raila Odinga to take them back to the streets. Some of them even regretted that they had criticized Raila for the first mandamanos that he had called for. There were two divided opinions. There were those who were saying that Raila should let Kenyans suffer so that they can learn from their mistakes, so that they can know that choices have got consequences. But there was another school of thought that felt that since Raila has got over 8 million people who voted for him and that they're also suffering, he should now call for a second round of demonstrations. Raila has finally heeded to those calls, and today they called a press conference and read a lengthy letter where they called upon Kenyans to avail themselves on Kamkunji grounds on 27th.
Thank you for coming. This is our statement titled, "What Next After Ruto's Contempt Budget?" Yesterday we saw what happens when a rogue and uncaring executive branch of government decides that the only thing that matters is their ego and their agenda. We have learned the hard way that this illegitimate regime can ignore the people, their feelings, their fears, their circumstances, their hopes and aspirations, and force its agenda on the people. That is what Ruto and his Kenya Kwanza followers did with the passage of the Finance Bill 2023. They ignored the wishes of the majority of Kenyans, and this signals the era of dictatorship. We ask Kenyans to beware. We say pole to the millions of Kenyans who are struggling to come to terms with this harsh reality. We know many of you think this is a nightmare that will probably fizzle out. Unfortunately, it is here with us and here to stay unless we act now. Because we are not helpless, we can act. The Ruto regime ensured that the wishes of the people were ignored. Instead, they retained punitive taxes on fuel, on housing, on turnover, on salaries, among others. This is like showing the people of Kenya the contempt card. The people can lament, plead, pray, and even picket to be listened to and still be ignored. This has never been seen in our country before. In the run-up to the voting on the finance bill, various polls showed that more than 90% of Kenyans rejected the finance bill. This kind of dictatorship is new. This budget is selfishly tailored to ensure Ruto and his cronies are living large and they eat well where a majority are suffering. Their getting subsidies to import cooking oil, maize, sugar, rice, among others, as we saw in the media expose recently, and this is all at the expense of vulnerable Kenyans. In this finance bill, the regime's corruption is properly budgeted for. Money for the regime's cronies is hidden in the provisions like fertilizer subsidy, national agricultural and rural inclusivity, national agricultural value chain development, Kenya serious enhancement, whatever that means, emergency locust response, and small-scale irrigation and value addition, among others. What we are saying is that if these provisions are genuine, agriculture being a devolved function, these monies would be devolved to the county, but not left at the center with lofty-sounding words just to be siphoned by the corruption cartels. Where there has been inflation, we must now prepare for hyperinflation. With the new raft of taxes approved yesterday, especially the fuel tax, we must prepare that even the little that remained of our monies will simply vanish. To our MPs who fought gallantly for the people in these times of difficulty, we salute you and we celebrate you. We believe Kenyans do too. We celebrate the fact that whereas the regime had said not even a comma would be removed from the bill, our MPs, while pushing for the millions of Kenyans, were able to force the regime to accept not one, not two, but several amendments. Sadly, those amendments did not include the dreaded double taxation, double rise in taxation of fuel, which is going to have a ripple effect on the cost of living. The amendments managed by our gallant MPs were not enough to guarantee the kind of life Kenyans desire. To the MPs who knowingly supported a bill overwhelmingly rejected by Kenyans, we say to you that the jury is out. Your day of reckoning will come. The writing is on the wall for this regime, and as the Bible tells us, and if I were to quote a certain member of this illegitimate regime, it is as the Bible says, mene mene tekel. We have decided to invite Kenyans to a consultation at the Kamukuji grounds next Tuesday, the 27th of June at 10 a.m., where the next course of action will be decided. Whenever, as a people, we have come together, we have always found a solution, even to our worst problems. This time will be no different. We believe that in the end, it is the people's voices that will prevail. The only time we have suffered longer than we should is only when we have allowed dictators to rule longer than they should. And it is only when divide and rule succeeds. We must not let that to happen. The people can never be helpless in their own country against rogue leadership. Not in a democracy like ours, and not in the dictatorship they are trying to create. We want to remind Kenyans, our constitution, in the very first article, gives sovereignty to the people, which the people, even the people, still retain the residual sovereignty, which we are asking people, let us come together next Tuesday, let us decide what kind of life we want to live. Thank you and God bless. And His Excellency Raila Amolo Odinga, the people's president and our leader, is out on a short trip. He will be back by the meeting on Tuesday, and so is my brother, His Excellency Kalonzo Musyoka. Two other principals are in Western Kenya today, that is Oparanya and Wanjakoya. But those of us who are present, we represent the entire Azimio side, fraternity. Asanteni sana, God bless.
And I believe that this is going to be the beginning of even massive maandamanos. I just want to say one thing. I have seen Kenyans, both abroad and those who are living locally, very excited about the calls for demonstrations. But I'm personally not impressed. Why? Raila has once again, together with the Azimio leaders, come out to help Kenyans. Because we have always said that Raila lacks nothing. Martha Karua lacks nothing. Eugene Wamalwa and all Jeremiah Kioni, all those, they lack nothing. They can afford the best schools, the best meals, the best medical care. But they're doing this on behalf of Kenyans who are suffering. Kenyans who are feeling the heat of inflation. Kenyans who cannot afford a meal a day. Kenyans who feel the pangs of hunger and really feel the pain of the high cost of living. The question is, have we learned for the period that Raila called off the demonstrations and the people suffered and punitive taxes were passed forcefully with threats to MPs who opposed this? Have we learned? Will people go out? Because when Raila calls on people to avail themselves, the people are suffering should also heed to the calls and avail themselves, and people discuss, because they have said we are going to resolve on one accord how we want to govern ourselves. That's why I'm saying that I'm not excited. I'll only be excited if all of us will go out there and force this regime to listen to us. But if it's going to be business as usual, when others are still divided, because divide and rule has always been the norm, where we are divided along tribal lines, along party lines, and then we forget that the rich and the poor are in contest here. If we don't go out, it is nothing. And that's why I'm saying I'm not really excited. And I just want to finish by saying this. William Ruto yesterday jetted out of the country to Paris, and I know he's really disturbed by this news. And I know there will be a very urgent meeting to try and counter these calls. Rigathi Gachagua is in the country, and remember, he's the one who has always called for what I may call shoot to kill against Raila Amolo Odinga. And I know people like Kimani Ichung'wah will very hurriedly hold a meeting. Kithure Kindiki, the Inspector General Koome, Nairobi Police Boss Bungei, I know they are going to hold a very urgent meeting to try and counter this. The only problem this time around is that even those who supported them, some of them are very tired. And we might just see an epicenter of a revolution that will begin. An Unga revolution. It will only work when all of us walk out. We'll continue looking at what transpires after this, and we'll continue giving you all this as they come.